Hi, Rampy. Hey guys, welcome to Reading with Queen Bee. I am here with my favorite dog in the world, Mr. Ramps or Rampy. He is joining me today because we are starting a new book, and the book is called Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. And it is one of my favorite books, and I am super excited to share it with you guys. And Rampy, as you can see, he is joining me, and he might be joining me throughout the reading of this story. I will be reading it in chapters because if I read all 27 chapters, I think this book has 26, 27 chapters, my dog Rampy will pretty much not like me. And I think I'll be very tired in filming 26 videos. That's too much work. And we're on break right now. Okay, so let me put on my glasses. And one thing that I want to tell you guys is that after each chapter, I'm going to be giving you like a journal topic or more of a discussion question. So that way you can type it up, email it to me, go to your Google Classroom, whatever you want to do, or just discuss it with your family and friends. A good, dinner talk, a good question. So for chapter 1, I'm going to be reading it to you. But one thing that I want to tell you, since you don't have the visual of a chapter book, it's all in your mind. Chapter books are all words. There's no pictures. You have the picture in the front, pretty much just a small picture in the back. But one thing that I want you to always remember when you are reading a chapter book, make a mind movie, make all those images, project them in your head. And sometimes you can make connections to the text. Remember, you have text to text. Maybe this book reminds you of another book. You have text to self. Maybe something that happened in the story reminded you of something that happened in your life. And you have text to world, which means something in this story reminds you of something that happened in the world. So please remember, as I am reading you the story, I will be doing a lot of stopping, comprehension, questions, self-talk, and of course, vocabulary. And I might stop and just check up on Rampy to make sure he's okay, since he is a little bit tired. And this is just chapter 1. Okay, so enjoy chapter 1 of Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. Chapter 1. My name is India Opal Baloney. Isn't that a funny last name? And last summer, my daddy, the preacher, sent me to the store for a box of macaroni and cheese, some white rice, and 2 tomatoes, and I came back with a dog. And if you know the story of Rampy, I went to work one day and I came back with the dog too. This is what happened. I walked into the produce section of the Winn-Dixie grocery store to pick out my 2 tomatoes, and I almost bumped right into the store manager. He was standing there all red-faced, screaming and waving his arms around. And if you've ever seen people mad, that's usually what they do. They scream and they put their hands in the air and wave them like they just don't care. So that's what was happening. So if you can make that connection, maybe your parents, maybe you have been, upset and waving your hands everywhere. Who let a dog in here? He kept on shouting. Who let a dirty dog in here? And one little thing I want to tell you, Rampy is a dirty dog right now. As you can see, he's not really groomed. It's closed, so he's just pretty dirty dog. At first, I didn't see a dog. There were just a lot of vegetables rolling around on the floor, tomatoes and onions and green peppers, and there was what seemed like a whole army of Winn-Dixie employees running around waving their arms just the same way the store manager was waving his. And then the dog came running around the corner. He was a big dog and ugly. And my dog right now, he is a beautiful dog, but he is a little bit ugly just because he is a dirty dog right now. Has a little stench. I should just bathe him instead of recording this video, but I'll leave that for his groomer. and he looked like he was having a real good time. His tongue was hanging out and he was wagging his tail. He skidded to a stop and smiled right at me. And that's one thing. I don't think Rampy has ever smiled at me. He's barked at me, tried to bite me one time when he was a puppy, but I never really seen him smile. He just wags his tail a lot. He's a happy dog. I had never before in my life seen a dog smile, but that is what he did. He pulled back his lips and showed me all his teeth. Then he wagged his tail so hard that he knocked some oranges off a display, and they went rolling everywhere, mixing in with the tomatoes and onions and green peppers. The manager screamed, "Somebody grab that dog!" The dog went running over to the manager, wagging his tail and smiling. So Winn-Dixie is a happy dog too. He stood up on his hind legs. Oh, and I will tell you, Rampy does this trick when we have a treat and we hold it up in front of him and we lift it up and he stands up on his hind legs. It's pretty cool. You could tell that all he wanted to do was get face to face with the manager and thank him for the good time he was having in the produce department. But somehow he ended up knocking the manager over. And the manager must have been having a bad day because lying there on the floor right in front of everybody, he started to cry. The dog leaned over him, real concerned, and licked his face. "Please," said the manager, "somebody call the pound." And if you know what the pound is, it's the dog pound. "Wait a minute," I hollered. "That's my dog. Don't call the pound." And it's not her dog, but if you're a dog lover, you know the feeling. You want to claim all those dogs on the street and the shelters, and that's how Opal was feeling. She couldn't let him be taken to the pound. All the Winn-Dixie employees turned around and looked at me, and I knew I had done something big and maybe dumb too. But I couldn't help it. I couldn't let the dog go to the pound. "Here, boy," I said. The dog stopped licking the manager's face and put his ears up in the air and looked at me, like he was trying to remember where he knew me from. "Here, boy," I said again. And then I figured that the dog was probably just like everybody else in the world, that he would want to get called by a name. Only I didn't know what his name was, so I just said the first thing that came into my head. I said, "Here, Winn-Dixie." And that dog came trotting over to me just like he had been doing it his whole life. So if you're making a mind movie, right now I'm making my mind movie whenever I come home from work and Rampy gets super excited. He trots over to me and wags his tail and just has happy-go-lucky little dog. And if you have a dog, you know exactly what I mean. You have made a text to self connection with these sentences. So Winn-Dixie right now is just so happy, but Winn-Dixie is not his name. Opal just named it right there on the spot. The manager sat up and gave me a hard stare, like maybe I was making fun of him. "It's his name," I said. "Honest." The manager said, "Don't you know not to bring a dog into a grocery store?" "Yes, sir," I told him. "He got in by mistake. I'm sorry. It won't happen again." "Come on, Winn-Dixie," I said to the dog. I started walking and he followed along behind me as I went out of the produce department and down the cereal aisle and past all the cashiers and out of the door. Once we were safe outside, I checked him over real careful and he didn't look that good. He was big but skinny. You can see his ribs. And there were bald patches all over him, places where he didn't have any fur at all. Mostly, he looked like a big piece of old bound carpet that had been left out in the rain. Oh, so if you guys have ever seen little dogs out in the streets, homeless, or just maybe an image from a movie or from real life, you can pretty much imagine that, the look of how Winn-Dixie looked to Opal, how she's describing all the details and adjectives she's using to describe Winn-Dixie. "You're a mess," I told him. "I bet you don't belong to anybody." He smiled at me. He did that thing again where he pulled back his lips and showed me his teeth. He smiled so big that it made him sneeze. And if you've ever seen a dog sneeze, it is super cute. Rampy does it here and there. He gets allergies sometimes. And right now, Rampy, can you sneeze on the spot? No, I don't think so. I think he wants to sleep on the spot right now. It was like he was saying, I know I'm a mess. Isn't it funny? It's hard not to immediately fall in love with a dog who has a good sense of humor. Come on, I told him. Let's see what the preacher has to say about you. And the two of us, me and Winn-Dixie, started walking home. So that is the end of chapter 1. So your discussion question for today is, I want you to think about this. Why do you think Opal just wanted to take Winn-Dixie home with her? Why do you think she just told the store manager, that's my dog, his name is Winn-Dixie, he's mine, claimed him, and he wasn't her dog? Why do you think she did that? What made her do that? I want you to think about it, talk about it, email me, go on your Google Classroom, and just label it, title it, Chapter 1 discussion question, or Chapter 1 journal entry for Because of Winn-Dixie. And I just want to thank you guys all for tuning in to another video of Reading with Queen Bee, and also for joining me with Mr. Rampy, my dog Rampy. And just stay tuned for Chapter 2. And in Chapter 2, we'll see why Opal will be taking, Mr. Winn-Dixie home, and what her dad, the preacher, will say to her. So please remember, if you want to keep buzzing about books, keep reading with Queen Bee. Bye.